So I've been giving my little Honda Cub a bit of a hard time on the dirt roads, corrugations and tracks, and the front right hand fork seal's gone. So I'm going to replace that. I replaced the left one about a year ago. I'll show you how I do it. I'm not a motor mechanic, so anyone that's got a better idea or any hints or anything like that, just add it in the comments and anyone can have a look. If you're looking at this, trying to work out how to do it yourself. Anyway, I'll show you how I do it. So I've got this exploded view of the forks on the NBC, and there's information for the torque settings, but I'll put that on the screen later on. Anyone working on a Super Cub NBC, it's really handy to get this workshop manual. You can download it. It's not for the NBC, it's actually for a CRF 110, but the engine's the same, so it's got a lot of useful information, you know, for doing the cam chain and things like that, so very handy. So first up, I've just set the bike up with a bit of a counterweight tied off the back here just to lift the front wheel off the ground. Just makes it a bit easier to work on just now. I'm not going to bore you by showing you me undo every single nut and bolt, but before I disconnect the fork, there's an Allen bolt under here, 6mm. I'm just going to crack that open just so that it's a bit easier to undo later. And the same up the top here, there's a plastic cap on the top here, and underneath that's a 10mm Allen bolt. So I'm going to do the same with that, just crack it. And then it's a matter of removing the axle. I'm not going to disconnect the speedo cable and the brake cable. I can remove the axle and just drop the wheel out from the forks and take the mud guard off, and then it'll be a matter of unbolting these top bolts here. Right, this is only the second time I've done this on a Super Cub. So I've taken the bolts out, just going to get the fork out in a minute. When I loosened off the bottom bolt here, some fork oil started coming out, so the tub there. So you can see I've taken the wheel off and just got the hub hanging there. Yeah, so we'll see how easy it is to get out. Oh, look at that, nice and easy. So I'll bring you up to the bench and show you pulling this apart. So I'm just going to undo the screw here and remove the boot. Okay, just going to undo this end cap. The spring pushes against it, but it's bugger all pressure, so not a problem undoing it. Right now, so that's the spring. Now what I want to do is tip the oil out, take the spring out together. Any oil that's left in there, just drain that out. Okay, so I might leave that for a little bit just to drain out. Sit that there. So just remember when you're putting the spring back in again, that the close spacing here goes towards the bottom of the fork. Okay. Okay, the oil's mainly drained out, so now put the spring back in and put the cap just loosely on. It's just to give a little bit of pressure on the bottom of the fork when you undo the bottom bolt. Otherwise the insides want to spin and not undo. Okay, so I'll just get a 6mm Allen key. Okay, just push down a little bit as you undo. And that bolt comes out then. Okay. Now, take this off again, take the spring out. Okay, that's the inside of the fork there. That's the bit we were trying to stop from spinning around by putting that little bit of downward pressure on it. The fork will now come completely apart. Now I've just got to take this dust seal off and then remove the old fork seal. Now there's another bit that goes on there, that's still in there, that piece there. Now very carefully, just with a very small screwdriver, just remove the dust seal. I haven't actually got a new one of these, so I'm just going to reuse it. Okay. Now you've got a little circlip inside there that has to be removed to get the oil seal out. So I'm just going to use a couple of screwdrivers and lever that in. Okay, so that's the spring out. Now I've got to get the old seal out. So just using a small screwdriver and not pushing in very far, I'm just levering just underneath the edge of the old seal and just push it enough just to start it moving and work my way around. It's pretty easy to remove. There you go. So that's the old one. So you notice with the writings on the top, you're going to make sure you put the new one in the right way. So I'll give that a bit of a clean out. Got that washer as well in there. So that's the new seal there. And for this next bit, you're going to need something that you can use as a drift just to make sure that the new seal goes in nice and square. I've just got a flywheel puller here, which is a nice close fit to the size of the seal. It just needs to be a little bit smaller than the actual inside here, and so you can push down and keep it nice and square, but a socket works just as well too. So I've got my fork oil here using 10W. Tipped a little bit into the cap just so I can wipe around the new seal that's going to go in. Okay, so with the writing facing me, I just start it in there with my fingers. It's not hard. You just seat it. Just push down firmly, nice and square. Okay. Just make sure that's in far enough. I'll put the circlip back in again. Okay, that's popped in. Okay. I'll put the dust seal in. Dust cap. Just lube it up a little bit with the fork oil. And just pushes in. Okay, now to reassemble the fork. So I've got this piece sitting on there, the spring, and so what we want to do is put that down there, slide this over that like that, and slide this in together. And the spring in. I'm just going to put a little bit of gasket goo on this bottom bolt. Not sure if this is necessary, but it's still becoming loose. Okay. Right, now I'm pushing down on the spring. This has got to be done up 20 Newton meters. I don't have a torque wrench here at the moment. I'll borrow one and just check this later, but I'm sure it's going to be tight enough. Okay, now it's time to fill it up with oil. So from the information I've got, with the fork fully compressed and the spring removed, the oil should be filled up to 76 mils from the top here, so I've just measured on a screwdriver and a bit of tape, 76 mils, so I can use that as a dip to check the level as I fill it. So I'm going to pour my fork oil in. Oops. A little bit too much. Just got to work that up and down. Find it'll get into the other side of this tube then. Okay, I've worked that up and down a bit. Just check. I reckon next time I do this, I'm not going to use a magnetic screwdriver. So I've actually got to put a little bit more in still after working it up and down. So work a little bit more, just a tiny bit at a time. Okay, check that again. Okay, work it up and down and just see if that's too much. It's just touching the screwdriver. Okay, so I had to tip a little bit out, but I've got the level right now, so just got to put the spring back in again with the more compressed end in first. And I can draw the fork right out. And that'll make it easier then to put the cap back in again. Just push down. Okay, I'll give that a wipe over, and then that's ready to put back in. So I'm just going to put the bolts in here with a little bit of Loctite on the threads, and then once that's in nice and tight, I'll give you the torque measurements of that on the screen. I've just got to do up the boot here, and then I'll tighten up the Allen bolt at the top here to the right torque, and again I'll add that on the screen, and then it'll be ready to reassemble, put the wheel and the mudguard back in again. Well, that's the job done, ready for a test ride. So if you've got any comments or suggestions on how to do it better, or if there's anything that isn't quite right you notice, just please add that in the comments below. It might come in handy for anyone else watching this, trying to do this job. Anyway, cheers.